Because if you keep it against the Beastmaster, not only do you know where he's going, you know where he's harassing, but you also know, relatively that... crap, I forgot what I was going to say. But you actually know where it is as opposed to keeping the hawk over your army or just kind of running it around blindly. Well, not blindly. I mean, obviously you're going to send it to certain points, like their base, make sure they're not going Spirit Walkers or anything weird, like Bloodlusted Tauren, especially when you're not tagging, which would actually kind of own. But, yeah, it's a good thing to send around and skip around and make sure he's not expoing, but really there's not much you can do, especially when you haven't even started your tech to tier 2. Because really when you can start actually going on the offensive is when you get the statues. The reason being is because stuff doesn't die and you almost have unlimited mana. It's like Brilliance Aura level 2, which is great. And as you can see, Grubby's going back for the expo, sort of. I don't know why he's running behind, but still. It's a good thing to know where your enemy is, which is the great thing about Quill Beasts and Hawks is, obviously the Beastmaster is going to start joining his army by the time he starts to go hit, so that's a good thing to keep in mind. Also, you can use the Skeleton Warriors to scout. This is actually a pretty sweet strategy for scouting. The reason he TP'd is because there's really not much he could have done otherwise to actually save his Beastmaster. With 3 ensnares and Hex, you're probably going to lose your Beastmaster, so it's a good thing just to play it safe. And not take too much damage so you can actually head back in. I mean, you don't really have access to potions, you don't have regen scrolls, so you have to be really careful as an undead player, which blows. Especially against this because, Goldmine gone. Really, building placement would have been sweet. I don't know what the deal is with those weird ziggurats at the top, and I mean, it really doesn't protect the mine from the bottom. It does protect it from the left side, but there's really not much you can do otherwise. So, yes, the other units added are, of course, mercenaries, and the reason mercenaries are actually really important is because not only does the Ogre Mauler completely decimate raiders, but you also have the Mud Golem, which kind of rapes Grunt's damage output, and you also have the Forest Troll Berserker, which is another form of anti-air. So basically, if Grubby actually decides to go Wind Riders, he's going to get completely destroyed. So yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind, is that if you're doing the strategy, you kind of want some sort of anti-air. You can't go Tinker. You really, really can't go Tinker. I've tried this, and it doesn't work. You can't go Tinker. But yeah, as the Undead player, especially if you're going Fiends, this is a really bad spot to fight. The reason he's still fighting is because he actually has a pretty decent unit advantage. But with Fiends, if you kind of have that bad positioning and he actually attacks you from behind, and you don't really do much about it, and your Fiends get ensnared at the front / back, like in front of your, between his raiders and your ghouls, that's just really bad positioning. You actually want to be able to move somewhere, which is why it sucks to be stuck kind of in that ring of the Goblin Merchant, which is generally why pro players actually drag things out to kill them. Yeah, thought you should know. So, one thing to keep in mind is that, he is going to be right-clicking your hero a lot, so potions of invulnerability become really important, and so does damaging things such as Ensnare. And on time to TP, I would have waited a bit, but especially because the Beastmaster's critting pretty low, he hasn't really... frick my knee. He hasn't really... He hasn't really crit past 100 yet, so he's fairly well off. Once he starts critting past like 100/150, then you're screwed. But I guess you can never be too careful with luck hits. Once again, he's still not started his tech. I believe he starts it soon, though. And that's weird how he can select all his buildings at once that quickly. I think he hotkeys them. But whatever. So this is the problem with setting up the fast expo. With bad building placement, not only does it get raped, but if you have bad building placement, you can't even save your Akos. I mean, yeah, they can ensnare, but as long as you make it harder for them to actually get back there, yeah. It's good to just be able to spend the extra money on, an actual ziggurat block. You will notice at his main, I believe he has actually decent building position, and the only way he can actually get through is if he takes out the relics in the crypt, and then he can actually get a good shot at the acolytes. But really, with this crappy build, you can actually come in like any which way. I mean, I don't even think those ziggurats are like... they might be one space apart, so it makes it a little difficult for heroes to get through, but it's still really not that much of a block. I mean, it's not really inhibiting things that well. So just keep in mind that if you're setting up an expo like that, build other buildings around it. You're going to get destroyed otherwise. Good spot for a sentry ward. Yes, he did put one up. I don't know if he sold the other one. I didn't really pay attention. Didn't really matter that much. When you're this high of a level, it really doesn't mean much to have a sentry ward because you already know what they're doing. Obviously, the Mass Raider hit and run is a pretty easy thing to counter, which actually surprised me because generally people will just go with the Mass Wind Riders and it will just completely rape. Especially when, they're not tier 2. I don't think Grubby knows that he's not tier 2 yet, but whatever. Level 5 Beastmaster, though, that's pretty important because Hawk level 3, Spirit Hawk's headed over. I mean, look at that damage output. That completely rapes burrows. That does, at least 75 damage. He is staying under low upkeep, and he is actually improving his base build a little bit. The top ziggurat that he just set up could have been put over one to the right a little more, but whatever. Poverty's perfect. So, yeah, obviously he's going to be sticking around at Expo a little longer unless he actually intends to make a push. Which, making a push when you're not even tier 2 is pretty stupid, especially because Grubby's actually low upkeep. Although it doesn't seem like he has that many units, Lucifer just has a ton of ghouls, and really, a ton of ghouls don't really do that much. Anyways, I think this is just kind of cocky play by Grubby. No offense, but it just seems that going Mass Raiders, it doesn't seem entirely logical. I mean, yeah, you can hit and run the Expo as much as you want, but you're really not going to do that much damage to his army. And eventually, if you keep hit and running his Expo, you're going to lose because he's taking out more units and he'll hit level 6 and stampede your base, and you'll be like, crap, I just lost all my burrows trying to TP back in, or trying to run back in because I don't have a TP because I wasted them all on hit and runs, and you end up spending more on hit and runs because of TPs than actually what you get out of it with pillage and stuff, especially on a small map like Echo Isles. If it was Noel Wood, I mean, it's a lot easier to hit and run and not waste as much money because it's just so much bigger, and there are so many other places that you can go to avoid people.